Well, hey, Connexus Church, welcome to another special bonus episode of the Connexus Church podcast. This is Carey Nieuwhof here, founding and teaching pastor of Connexus, and I wanted to bring you today a special bonus episode, an interview that I did with New York Times bestselling author Rachel Cruze. And Rachel has a fascinating story. So she's the daughter of Dave Ramsey. And Dave Ramsey is one of the best known and widely respected financial teachers in the United States today and really around the world. He's authored Financial Peace University and helped so many, like millions of people, get out of debt. He too is a New York Times bestselling author, speaker, has actually what is now a huge company, Ramsey Solutions. And I sat down with Rachel, who is a millennial herself, just a young mom in her very early 30s, and talked to her about personal finance. And she has some tremendous tips. So for all of you who are parents, you're going to want to listen up. Having raised a couple of boys myself, I found her idea of not giving them an allowance fascinating. We didn't quite know about that at the time, but like it is actually a really good proposal, and we did similar things with our kids. And then she has all kinds of practical advice in this podcast, like how rich do you have to be to afford a new car? And the answer to that is actually really surprising. And we talk about a whole lot of other stuff, common struggles, how to get out of debt, et cetera, et cetera. And we're bringing this to you in the context of our series with Andy Stanley called Crazy Like Us, where Andy is talking about getting out of debt and how to live a generous life. It's a fantastic series. We thought this would help you. In addition to that, we have something called the Financial Learning Experience that we offer at Connexus, and we're very excited about that. If you go through to connexuschurch.com and click on events and scroll down, you'll see we have a couple of financial learning experiences, one happening in Aurelia on November 4th, another happening in Barrie on November 11th. Those events are free to you. And we just give you very practical teaching. We've now helped over 1,000 people at Connexus figure out their personal finances, get themselves into a place of less debt and more money in the bank and even more generous giving as well. So make sure you head on over to connexuschurch.com/events or just click on events and you will see it there as you scroll down. Or of course, drop by any of our locations on Sunday morning and let us know that you're coming. But we just want to get behind you, give you some really practical resources, because it's one thing to say, hey man, get out of debt. It's another thing to actually help people on how to do it. So between the financial learning experience and this conversation with Rachel Cruze, we really hope this helps you. If you're new to this podcast, we are Connexus Church. We have locations in Barrie, Midland, and Aurelia. You can find out more at connexuschurch.com. We'd love to host you on a Sunday morning. But in the meantime, here's my conversation with best-selling author and speaker, Rachel Cruze. Well, Rachel, welcome to the podcast. It's so good to have you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. So I would love to ask you, if you kind of go back growing up as, a famous person's daughter, your dad, your mom were pretty, and particularly your dad, very prominent and all that. How did you decide to become involved in Ramsey Solutions? I mean, it's not automatic that a child says, yes, I will work in the family business.
That's right. Yeah, it's really interesting. When I look back, I totally see God's hand and like the path he paved for me is so obvious now that I look back. I don't know if I would have said it in the moment, but I have always, I have an older sister and a younger brother. So we've always kind of been a part of the company, everything meaning that the shipping department used to be in our living room growing up. And so we would stuff envelopes and put books in, those boxes and tape them up and put labels. So like we did everything under the sun in regards to that as kids. And so we've always kind of been a part of the company. But I started traveling with Dad when I was 15. And someone had this great idea that I should get up in his events and before one of the breaks, pitch the kids' products. And I could have like this whole routine, how it's tough to be Dave Ramsey's kid and like this whole thing. And so at the time, those events were the Total Money Makeover arena events. So there'll be 6 to 10 to 12,000 people in these all Saturday events. And so I remember thinking at 15, like, that's crazy. I'm not going to get up on stage in front of all those people. Like, what? And, the more so this person was like, no, you'd really be good at it. And I was like, okay, that kind of could be fun. And Dad was like, you know what? If you pitch these products, I'll give you a cut for whatever you sell at the back table of whatever products you sell. And I was like, all right. Like, I have enough like utilitarian spirit in me where I was like, all right, this could be a good gig. Let's see. So I did my first event, and Carey, when I got off stage, people were like, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? And I was like, that was one of the most fun things I think I've ever done.
Really?
And as I learned, I was like, public speaking is not fun for a lot of people, but I enjoyed it so much. And so that was my job for the rest of high school. I mean, I would miss football high school games and travel with him to Cincinnati or, these random cities and speak with him because I loved it that much. And then when I graduated from high school and went to college, I stopped doing all of that because I was like, I want to be at college and enjoy and all of that. And I'd say college is the time that my little financial bubble popped. And I realized deeply the need for this message because I was watching my friends and even peers make these devastating mistakes with their money. I mean, going deep into student loan debt, signing up for credit cards and taking road trips on them. Right? I mean, seeing it all unfold. And I was like, I remember thinking, okay, I'm 18, 19 years old and I don't have all the answers, but I definitely know these basics. And what they're doing is going to cause them so much harm later in life. And that's the moment God started stirring this specific message for me. And so when I graduated from college, I talked to Mom and Dad and I was like, I want to travel and speak and talk to high school students and college students specifically. Because I kind of looked at my dad as the emergency surgeon and I was the preventative medicine. So it's like, if you can get it early, you'll be so much better off. And so I started doing that right out of college. And then now almost 10 years later, which is crazy to say, I'm married, I have 2 kids. So my message is definitely, grown with me, and my audience is older now. I don't really do much high school or college speaking. But that's kind of where it all started. And it's funny because when people ask me this question, I always go back to this conversation I remember having with Mom and Dad, because they were huge on if any sibling, if any of us got into the business, number one, they were adamant. They're like, you have to be called to this because nothing is more miserable than a family business where the family's miserable because you're going to make everyone else around you miserable. And it's not fun. Like, why spend your life, under the shadow of your dad trying to keep up if that's not your calling, right? I mean, that puts you in such a weird spot. You don't want to devote your life to something that you're not called to. So there was really no pressure. If anything, they almost deterred me because Dad was like, and if you do this, Rachel, do you understand that you're going to have to work twice as hard as everyone else because you're already 2 levels below in people's expectations. They're just going to expect that you're going to be given everything. And so you have to be early and you got to work late. You got to prove that you're here and that you're willing to work. And so if anything, it probably would have been easier to go off and do something else. It took a lot of work, but I'm so glad. I'm so thankful for that. That's kind of how it all unfolded.
Are you an extrovert? I just have to ask you this.
Flapping my hands around. I know.
Extreme extrovert?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Do you think that makes speaking easier?
That's a good question. I've never been asked that. I mean, my initial response is yes, because I get energy from people. I enjoy people, and that's so fun for me. Where my husband's an introvert, but he's a great speaker. He'll do staff meeting announcements or different things, and he's so funny and so great, but he's drained after, where I'm more energized by it. So I would think you get more energy from people when you're an extrovert. So I would say maybe a little easier.
Now, I wonder, I'm just curious whether that made it easier for you. I used to be an extrovert, then I've been in ministry for 20 years, so enough for that. got beat out of me. But it's interesting. A lot of public speakers, you talk to a lot of preachers, they're naturally introverts. And yes. I love public speaking, but I mean, at 15 to get up there, I mean, I was in radio at 16, so I guess that's not inconceivable.
Right.
But it was okay, so as far lots of communicators listening, obviously if you knock it out of the park at 15, there's some raw talent there. How have you honed your craft as a communicator over the last, 10 years or whatever?
One of the best pieces of advice someone gave me early on, and I did it for years. I've kind of gotten out of the habit of it, but is to watch yourself. like,
isn't that the most awkward thing?
Terrible. Oh, it's torture. I mean, it is terrible. If you hate listening to your voice on a voicemail, this is going to be like 10 times worse. Yeah, but it is the most effective tool because you're your worst critic. So I'm watching myself and I'm like, oh, that's so annoying. Why am I doing that? Or I'm talking too much with my hands, or I'm saying that over and over. You pick up on so much when you watch yourself. And so for me, that was probably one of the most powerful tools that I did. So that was huge. I had a lady come in and I guess it's probably for about 6 weeks and kind of coached me, voice coach, if you will. If you have a deep accent, right? She tries to kind of take that out and that kind of thing.
So it was more like accent coaching rather than, did she give you any delivery tips?
No, it was more delivery. Yeah. I mean, she said if you had a deep accent, she would help with that, which I didn't as much, which is weird coming from Nashville. But inflection and pauses and that kind of thing. And so that's big. And then shaping your content, which there's hundreds of books out on that. I mean, everyone, there's a ton of writers. Andy Stanley has a great one. And so there's some really great books. And so learning how to weave a good story as well. So it's part of it is the delivery, but then also a big part of the content. And so making that move. And so that's been helpful as well.
Back to the thank you for that. Back to the family business part. It's interesting because, I mean, your mom and dad had a tough story, right? I mean, he came to this financial responsibility pretty honestly. But my guess is that a lot of your life, particularly by the teenage years, was on the upside of the story, the recovery. So I'm curious how your parents managed that, because I think in a lot of cases, on the outside looking in, it would be easy to say, oh yeah, it's so easy to be financially responsible, Rachel. Your dad has made quite a bit of money. You didn't really have any needs. How did they handle that as parents?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, early on, what they did is teach us as kids how to handle our own money. So everything from we weren't given an allowance, we were always on commission. So you work, you get paid. You don't work, you don't get paid. And learning how to give out of that and save out of that and spend out of that. And so the blessing of that is that you get to reap the reward of your hard work as a child, and you get to feel what it feels like to give your own money and to save it up for something or to spend it and get something fun, right? You get to feel that, but you also feel the consequences when you spend it on something that breaks in the car on the way home, and you learn that at 7 years old, and or opportunity cost. You spend all your money on one thing and then you want to go to a concert with your friends the next and you don't have the money for it. And so we learned a lot of those lessons handling actual, tactically money early on. And for that, I'm so thankful, because some parents, their kids don't touch money except if it comes out of their back pocket and they go spend it. And there's no accountability or responsibility or weight on their shoulders till they're 18 and they're out of the house. So on the tactical side, that was a huge part. And I mean, we as kids, mom and dad did a great job, which looking now as a parent, I now credit them even more. Is that we were not given everything. I mean, if anything, if we wanted something, it was either okay, well, maybe at Christmas in 9 months, you're asking in March. So maybe for Christmas you can get it, or you can save up for it and pay for it. Or if it's something really expensive, we'll match it. But there was so much skin in the game for us as kids, all the way up until college, of what we wanted, we had to work for. And now as an adult, I kind of laugh sometimes because people are like, oh, well, you must be doing really well. And I'm like, well, I mean, I handle the money I make responsibly, but it's not like my dad is sending me secret checks in the mail and I'm getting free money. I have to actually go to work, and the money I make, I have to manage. And so, so all that to say, I mean, they did it right, and they did it really well, which I so appreciate. And again, as a parent, I'm especially when you're winning and you're able to give your kids things, you want to bless them and do that. But there's that boundary, that limit. When you go over that, that's where the spoiling and the entitlement and all of that comes in. But they did such a great balance, I think, looking back. And I'm so grateful. They gave us dignity, really is what it is, of working and being responsible.
As a parent of now grown children myself, I hear that story, and I knew that part of your background and some of the, the background listening I had done and reading, that your parents didn't do allowance, they did, and you call it commission, right?
Yes.
So your mom now too, your kids are probably too little for commission at this point. Yeah. But just for all the parents listening, I wish I had known about that when my kids were 5. And would you do that with your daughters? Would you do something like commission?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. We have a 3.5-year-old now And I'm like, okay, you're old enough to know how to pick up some toys. Like, we can start this thing now. You know what I mean? Like, really, I mean, I'm kind of itching now to be like, all right, we could start this.
So what does that look like? What was the structure for commission?
Yeah, well, it's very age appropriate because some parents hear this and they think, they're going to send their 4-year-old out to mow the lawn or, something crazy. It's very age appropriate. So if it's young, less than 5, right? So that 3, 4, 5-year-old range, you can definitely still teach, okay, if you work, you get paid. And so if we clean up the room, we all know as a parent that you're cleaning up 8 out of 10 of the toys. A 3-year-old's picking up 2, but that's still good. I mean, they still are awesome. They're a room cleaner. They get the badge and the reward. It's exciting. And when they're that young, I always say pay instantly and just have a clear jar on their dresser that they can just put the money in so that they can visually see it grow as little kids. And in 2 to 3 weeks, take them to Target and let them buy a $4 or $5 little toy and just kind of get in the pattern of them associating work and money. And then when they get to be a little older, between like 6 and 13, I always say make it a little bit more structured. And so have a chore chart on the refrigerator or something that everyone can see. And they have chores and everyone's responsible for a certain amount of chores. And at that age too, they start to learn that you don't get paid for everything. So it's not like you're in a little union and you pick up a sock and you get paid. And so there are things that you do because you're part of the family. And there are some things we're going to pay you for because the benefit of that is, again, all the lessons they learn when they make their own money. And so you pay them once a week at that age. And for us, it was Sunday nights was payday night. And I think just to relieve a lot of parents, we were not perfect at this at the Ramseys. I mean, Dad would forget, oh gosh, maybe 4 weeks at a time sometimes. And then he'd like, we got to go back the whole month and look, so it's not a perfect science, but the more intentional you are about it, the more of a rhythm that your family gets in and you get it. And then a little bit older, right, teenage years, I always tell parents, get a student checking account and put some money in. That's what you would normally spend on them as teenagers. And if they want more money than that, they got to get a job or they can like kind of live on this amount. And that's the amount they have for the month. And they have to learn and with them, right, you're holding their hand in essence through all of this. But you're teaching them, this, if you're going to spend this on food or gas or whatever it is, you have a certain amount of money because then they learn that money's finite. And once it's gone, it's gone. And so that's, a big thing. But all of those, the little kids up into the teenage years as well, teaching them those 3 basic things and even getting envelopes if you want, but having give, save, and spend, those 3 money muscles are so important to build as young as you can.
No, I'm glad you're drilling down on it because there's a ton of parents listening, and some of them are looking back on it going, gosh, wish I knew this. Others are like, man, just in time or thank you. So you're hitting 12, 13, 14 years old. Did your mom and dad, did they cap the allowance just to get really granular? It's like if you mow the lawn and empty the dishwasher and make your bed and pick up your towels, then, there's a maximum of $10, or was it like infinite? Like if you do more work, you can make $20, or what's a good structure for that? Because it's really interesting.
Sure. Yeah. For us, it was set. It was like, okay, Rachel's responsibility is to feed the dog and to do this and that. Denise's, it's this. Everyone's expected to, make their bed. Like the kitchen for us, for instance, we were never paid on dishes. Like we were expected to take our dishes to the sink, put them in the dishwasher. As we got older, we had to wash the dishes, right? I mean, like all of that was like, because you're part of the family. So I'd say as a parent, pick, 4 or 5 things. And then, I think if there was extra stuff that you wanted them to do, like, hey, I'd pay you $5 to wash the car. I mean, you could always throw that kind of stuff in. I don't think it's a big deal. But if you're maxing out hundreds of dollars a week for your kid's commission, I would lower it and max it. Yeah, we're not going to get crazy here.
The idea of limits too for your more grown children, like once they get to high school or even college. We put a couple of kids through college recently, and my one son was dating at the time and wanted to get married. And so he's like, how am I going to buy the ring? Like, how's that going to work? I'm like, well, you get X number of dollars a month, figure it out. And so he worked, that was his university allowance. And he was really disciplined to the fact where, if his soon-to-be fiance would come over, he would say, that's too much milk. You're not allowed to have too much milk. Now, put it back in the fridge because he only had so much money for milk that week. And of course, he didn't want to tell her he was saving for a ring. But it's because when the bank of mom and dad is open, all of a sudden, man, they will do whatever they want. And
Yep.
even clothing allowances for back to school. We figured that out middle of the
Yes.
game in high school. It's like, well, you have $150 for everything. That includes your gym. Just pick a number,
Yep,
That
that's
includes
right.
your
That's
gym
right.
shoes. That includes your coat. And then all of a sudden your kids go from, well, I need this and I need that to, hey, there's a sale at this store.
That's right.
They
That's
get
right.
they get incredibly. So it was that kind of environment that you grew
I
up
love
in.
it. Yeah. Oh, 100. I was gonna say our back to school, we would get an envelope of cash. Yeah. And it would be like the 150 or, whatever the amount was. And it was like, all right, Rachel, here's your envelope. And that's it. Like, yeah,
Right.
you get to decide. And yeah, so when you teach your kids that, and that's the great part is parents can be so fearful of big topics in life. And like, how do we approach talking about sex? How do we talk about politics? How do we talk about money, right? All these kind of scary topics. But when it's in the ebb and flow of life, just like that, and it's like, hey, here's your set amount. This is part of your life. You're having to go buy clothes for school. So let's just make this into a teachable moment. And it's not this big budget camp on the weekend that you're sitting with your kids and trying to like force them to do all this crazy money stuff. It's just part of life and they will learn it and pick up on it. And I'll also say too, with parenting, that more is caught than taught.
Yeah.
And so your kids are watching your habits as parents as well and how you interact with money.
No, that's a good point. And I wonder, in the early days of our parenting, Rachel, I think sometimes if Tony and I felt tight, that tightness would translate to the kids. And then as we had more money, you almost want to give that surplus to the kids too. And then we had to put a check in our spirit to go, look, whether we have money in the account or not, and even on those days where you may have far more money than you thought you would, that doesn't automatically, you're not helping your kids by giving them too much. Is that fair?
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. And again, it's that hard balance because, the famous line, I want to give my kids a better life than me, right? I mean, like there's these things that we have with our kids that we love and you can do those things. I think you can, we went on great vacations. That's one thing mom and dad kind of splurged on. We always grew up going, once I was like in middle school, high school and on, we didn't go on vacation for good part of my first year because they were broke. But as they started making money, that was one part that they loved to bless us with were great vacations. So like you'll find your niche of like, okay, there's a way we can bless our kids and have fun with them. But gosh, it gives them a disservice and almost a sense of entitlement when every time they ask for something, they're handed it, or you as a parent just continue to give, because that's what they're learning, the lesson that there is no limit, there is no boundary. And I meet 30-year-olds that think that about money still, right? And that's a scary thought, but you could go into the debt topic. That affects so much of our habits. But as parents, when you give them that boundary and that limit, it's a gift in and of itself, really.
So I want to switch to talk about messaging. So you look at Ramsey Solutions, what your dad does with the radio show, the books that you've written together, the books that you've written, the public speaking you do. To a certain extent, does it ever feel like you're saying the same thing over and over and over again? There seems to be, the radio call-in show, it's not like people are inventing new money problems every week. I'm sure you get a few curveballs.
Right.
But is it a bit like being a personal trainer? It's like, hey, Carey, if you stop eating those triple cheeseburgers and you get on your bike or get on the treadmill, guess what? The magic happens. You lose some weight. And how about doing some push-ups? And the point, I guess, where this question is going is, first of all, there's probably some problems that just keep surfacing. So if you had to list the top 3 or 4 things that you hear about day in, day out, decade after decade now, because you've got decades of track record in this.
Yep.
What are the big 3 or 4 that, and pastors listening and leaders listening, you're trying to help your congregation or your team financially as well. This is what they're struggling with. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I would say one thing I see from people a lot of the time is that they're just not intentional with their money. Like the idea of doing a budget is so foreign. And this idea that we're going to just live paycheck to paycheck, we just pray nothing scary pops around the corner and it's going to cost, X amount of dollars. And they just live on the edge. A lot of people do. And 80% of them, nearly 80%, technically it's 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck right now. And so people are just not intentional with their money. And it's amazing when you can sit down and actually give every dollar a name before the month even begins and you make a plan for your money, how quickly a lot of your money problems go away because you, number one, know what's going on. Number two, you're planning. And number three, you're in control. You're not just spending just to spend. And so that's one problem. It's just people not being intentional. I would also say a lot of discontentment. And I'm seeing that. I think it's kind of on the rise. And I think social media has a part in that. I think certain kinds of TV does too. I mean, I don't know exactly what it is, but there definitely is still this spirit of keeping up with the Joneses and always just wanting, the new iPhone comes out and all of a sudden you hate your phone and you have to have the new one, right? I mean, it's just this spirit of discontentment that is getting people, which I would say would be the third thing, into deep debt. And debt is something that has been around for obviously decades, but it's continuing to climb with the student loan crisis on the rise. Credit card debt is now rising back up since the recession. And so it's just, you're seeing people continuing not to have patience for things, and having that discontentment plays into it, thinking that, okay, this thing will make me happy. If I can just have that thing, everything will be okay, and not having the discipline to save up and pay for it. Or like we were saying earlier, they're not intentional, living paycheck to paycheck. So if an emergency does happen, a credit card is their safety net, which is scary. But they fall into that. And so yeah, I would say those things: not being intentional, discontentment, and debt. We could talk about saving money. We could go. I could list more, but those are the big, I would say those are the big things.
Everybody's heard the term paycheck to paycheck for years, for decades. The question I have is, technically, what do you mean by that? Because people say, we're living paycheck to paycheck. So if you had to say, no, this is what that means, at least in your mind, or, according to Ramsey Solutions, just so people know, oh gosh, I guess I'm living paycheck to paycheck, or maybe I'm not, or how much of your church is living because we've got a lot of people trying to raise money every weekend and trying to get their people to give. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck, that's a tough one. So what does that mean?
Absolutely. I mean, it would literally mean that if you don't have a paycheck coming in on the 15th or the 30th, you don't have you don't have money to pay bills. Like there's like 4 out of 10 Americans can't cover a $400 emergency right now. So there's no savings.
Wow.
And once the paycheck comes in, it's scattered throughout the bills, and that's all they have. And they're waiting till the next paycheck to pay the rest of the bills, whatever comes. So
there's no cash reserve. There's
no, again, 4 out of 10 Americans cannot cover a $400 emergency. It used to be $1,000 emergency, and now it's gone down. And so the savings rate in America continues just to plummet. And so it's really fear. I mean, that is a scary place to be. Most women's top financial fear is the lack of security. And talk about not having security when there's not an emergency fund in place and that paycheck to paycheck living is there. And so it's really difficult, because just like you were saying about the personal training example, is that personal finance, it's 80% behavior. It's 20% head knowledge. To lose weight, right? Like you're saying, eat less, exercise more. To do
Pretty
money,
simple.
Stop borrowing money, save money, get an extra job, make more income if you need to get yourself out of the hole. I mean, like we know to do these things, but to do it requires change, and change is so hard for us. Even though people are in stressful situations, the idea to change what they've been doing is so scary and it's hard to do. But man, once you pivot out of that and you actually see and feel a life where you are in control and you're starting to pay off debt and you're getting an emergency fund and you have savings in the bank, suddenly it's like, okay, this is the way. I feel like, and it's all scripture based. I mean, it's really how God calls us to live. And you start to really feel like a good steward, and you're able to do the things that you want to do as well. And that's everything as shallow as going on a great Caribbean vacation to the things that you value deeply, like giving. And I'm so glad you hit on that, because it's true. It is so hard for people to give because they're not in a financial position. And so we really push churches to think about, what could the people of God do for the kingdom of God if they didn't have debt?
Yeah, that is a great question, Rachel. I'm so glad you asked it. I want to talk about personal finance for leaders who are in ministry. So as I always say when I talk to church leaders, we know you guys got in this for the money. Obviously not. I came up here. Now, this was a few years ago now, but I remember, gosh, my first year's salary was $19,000 a year plus a house. Yeah. Now that was the mid '90s, and it was a different era. But yeah, you could double that. It's still not a ton. It's pretty light. And there were times, just to go back, I mean, it was a monthly check, And I would have to ask for it. And sometimes I'd have to wait for a week. The treasurer we had at the time would be like, yeah, I can't get to it right now. I'm like, okay, And so I'm familiar with, and I left law to do that. So it was great. Somebody once joked to me, I know this used to be your hourly rate, but here's your check for the next 2 weeks. So anyway.
A big jump for you.
Yeah. But there are a lot of leaders listening who are like, Rachel, listen, if I could talk to you and have a one-on-one conversation, we just don't make enough. And that is a real issue in the church. So any thoughts for leaders who are living paycheck to paycheck, who honestly, their churches are broke. There's so much broke thinking in the church, and they're just lower income. What do you do to get into a financial? Like, can you get into a healthy financial place when you're living with less?
Yes, absolutely. And your life just may look different, and there may be different seasons of sacrifice. And honestly, my advice would be if I was talking to a teacher as well, right? I mean, take the occupation out of it. I look at the math part and say, okay, here's your income, here are your expenses. And so number one, if you're not living on a budget, do that. Go to EveryDollar. It's one of our budgeting apps. It is amazing. And do a budget. Because when you do a budget, we always say, and it's true, you feel like you got a raise. Because you're like, oh, wow, okay, it's not as bad as you think it is. And you actually have a plan for where things are going. And it's amazing the control you have. And so if you haven't done that, I would say, number one, do a budget. Because number two, what it's going to reveal is, do you have an income problem? Do you have an outgo problem? And usually for people earning less, usually the income side. And so what do you have to do for just a season of your life to be able to get your family out of debt and have savings in the bank? And so that's a window of, for some people, 24 months to 3 years. But there may be things that you do uncomfortably to get yourself in a place where there's at least stability, because the last thing I would want is that living paycheck to paycheck to living just thinking, okay, well, debt's just going to have to be a part of my life, and it is what it is. And if something bad happens, I don't know what to do, right? So you're actually creating a plan, and you're tangibly going after that. And so it's uncomfortable, and it's not fun. But I will say this as well: it is so worth it.
Yeah,
it is so worth it. So even if it's an extra job and you're driving Uber at night for 2 nights a week or whatever it is,
just to dig out of the hole.
Just to dig out of that hole. Yes. And I'm not saying you have to go, fund your retirement every year out the wazoo, right? Like, we just do one step at a time. And that stability, that stress that you're no longer a slave to the lender is one of the biggest burdens that can be lifted. It's amazing the freedom that you feel when money is not the issue in your life constantly on you, right? I mean, Jesus said it's hard to serve two masters. And so getting yourself in that place, which again, it's so easy to say over a microphone right now, because the sacrifice part is the difficult part, but for short-term sacrifice for long-term gain is so worth it.
Yeah, and I mean, your shows, all of your platforms, I can't tell you the number of times very average families or below average income families are like, we just burned through, paid off $80,000 in debt, or it's ridiculous to see what can happen.
It is. And it's crazy. I mean, you listen to their story and you're like, oh my gosh, but it's like, simple things, everything from cutting cable to not going out to eat as much. It's just these lifestyle changes that they made, and doing things, to get some income up for a short period of time. But it is always just amazing. And hearing like even single moms and their stories, and they, maybe they paid off $24,000 of debt, and it's not like this huge amount, but for that single mom, I'm like, that's 2 years worth of like hard work that she did. So it is so fun because you see every income level, every debt level. And when you believe that you can, it is possible.
We talk about for a minute cars and car payments. So I think I heard your dad say, and this may be a little bit dated, but or it could be inaccurate. It could be apocryphal. The internet. It's so reliable.
That's right. That's right.
Did he at one point say, or what would you say? I think what I heard him say was that you should be a millionaire and have a net worth of over $1 million to be able to buy a new car. And if you're not a millionaire, you can't afford a brand new vehicle. Any thoughts on that? Because so many people, now in Canada, where I am, north of Toronto, most listeners here are American, 85% are American. But, they're now advertising cars as weekly payments because people don't want to look at $900 a month. They think, oh, that's too much. But man, if it's, $120 a week, I can afford that. Like, they're selling car payments, not cars. Any thoughts on how, wealthy you should be before you really start to look at a new vehicle, or any rules of thumb on cars, I'm a car guy, so I'm asking that, for a friend.
You're like, just a little selfishly. That's definitely still the advice. Yeah. $1 million or more, because at that point you can financially take the hit of driving that brand new car off the lots because of how much it devalues itself. And so if you don't have $1 million, that's what we say. And really, when you look at
$1 million net worth, right?
Net worth. I'm sorry. Yes. Because when you look at car payments in of itself, to me, it's the dumbest type of debt that you can get into, because you're making payments and paying interest on something that's going down in value. And you are taking out a loan on, again, something that's going down in value. And not only that, you can still get a great used car. And I'm not talking about a car that has 14 different paint jobs on it. Like when some people think of a used car, like, oh, the air conditioning's not going to work. I'm like, no, you can get a used Mercedes that's, 8 years old or whatever. Like you can go still get a nice car. Not even that nice. I mean, you can even go down to a great Honda Civic. Like you can get great cars that are used and still reliable, and financially, they do not put this burden on you, because the average car payment right now in North America is right close to $500. It's like $400 and what was it, $83 I've read, or something like that. But so it takes a beating on people. And again, it's something that's going down in value. And I'm like, no. So buy the used car, the 2-year-old or older car. I mean, at that point in your life, it is so worth it. And then, once you have $1 million net worth, then you can take the hits.
If you want to.
If you want to, And the average millionaire and the millionaire next door drives a 2-year-old or older car. And so there's just this point that, you can still enjoy great cars, but it doesn't have to be the brand new one coming off the lot.
Personally, I haven't purchased a new one in 18 years, because the last one I bought was a lemon. But the one I'm driving right now, I bought a few years ago. It was 2 years old.
Okay.
And it was a $60,000 brand new, fully loaded Honda Pilot that I picked up half price after 2. Yeah. And it still smelled like factory.
I know. Isn't that amazing too? And what's fun is that newness that you're wanting. And it's like, oh, a new car. You still get that in a used car because it's still new to you. And so, that itch is a little scratched when it comes to that. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. Broke thinking. It's something I see a lot in the church. This idea that cheap, because there's a difference between cheap and effective, right? I hired a contractor once, and I really liked the hammer he had. I'm like, I don't know anything about tools. I'm like, tell me about your hammer. He says, oh, it's a good one. He says, I'm too poor to buy cheap, which I've never forgotten.
Interesting. Yes.
I'll buy it once. I'll have it till I'm 70 years old. Yep. It's a really good hammer. Churches don't always think that way. A lot of pastors are frustrated with the cheapness in their congregation. And frankly, a lot of people who lead in the marketplace, they got lots of staff who are just drowning in debt. How do you overcome broke thinking? This idea that cheap is better, that we shouldn't fund the kingdom. You already said it, right? We want people funding the kingdom with the money that God has given them, not drowning in credit card debt. Any tips for leaders on how to cure their church of broke thinking?
Well, you have to renew your mind, right? When Scripture talks about that's truth. And so for us in our message, we found that's effective is that not only do you have to understand what's going on, but you have to get mad at your situation. And so when there's this broke thinking, but everyone's okay with it, and it's just going to be how it is, and that's just how it is. There's not a lot of passion, not a lot of drive to change. And so people have to get to a point in their own personal life where they're like, I am sick and tired of living like this. I am sick and tired of this being my life. I have got to do something different. So you have to get to this visceral point that you're willing to change. And so I would say that, and I would also say, opening up Scripture, and you look through Proverbs, you look through, books. And when Jesus talks about money, which is a lot, actually, the whole Bible talks about money more than heaven and hell combined. And so you go and you see, okay, God, what do you have to say about this? And so being able to reflect on that hopefully gives some energy to people to say, okay, this is how it's supposed to be. This is what it's supposed to look like to steward the resources that God has given me. And this is what I'm supposed to be able to do. And there's freedom in that. But I would say, first, there has to be some emotion behind the change of why the change, and then going to the best instruction manual that we have.
You work with a lot of church leaders. Are there any particular issues that you see Christians struggle with or pastors struggle with more than other people, or no, we're all just human beings?
I would say overall, we're pretty much just human beings, because the statistics in the church look the exact same as statistics you read in the Wall Street Journal, right? I mean, there's not much of a difference, any difference really, in the mainstream world versus in the Christian world. But I would say that there is a greater need that I feel when I talk to a believer, that giving is a huge, I wouldn't say shame point, but it is a conviction that they have that they're not able to give. So when I'm talking to a couple and we're looking at their budget, like giving is always brought up early on. Like, yeah, well, we want to be able to give, but we can't. And so, we walk through the problem. That doesn't come up as much. I have to persuade, I guess you could say, others to even think of the possibility to give first, because that's so foreign to the outside world, where at least in Christianity, giving and serving, and that's more on the forefront of our minds, which is a good thing.
I know you answer this question a lot, but if somebody says, okay, Rachel, thank you for convicting me, I need to give more, whether that's 10% or whatever, they'll say, I'm going to do that as soon as I'm debt free. Let me pay off my credit cards. Let me pay off the line of credit. We'll get rid of the mortgage. Then I will be generous. What do you say to that?
It's a really, it makes sense, right? Because when I talk to people, I'm like, well, just give some first and then you pay off debt. And they're like, well, couldn't I take the money I'm giving and mathematically I would have more to pay off? And I'm like, yes, but you're missing the most fun thing that you get to do with money, and what giving does to you, not just financially, but I'm talking spiritually and emotionally. Suddenly you are living your life, and as a believer, opening your hand and truly trusting, okay, God, this mathematically does not make sense. Me giving to the church this $300 doesn't make sense because I could pay off debt with that, right? But I'm trusting that you're my provider and you are good, and I'm giving back what is yours already. And that practice of having that open hand, what it does is I love it because it gives the opportunity for more to come back in. And it's not a prosperity. I'm not saying give and there'll be a brand new BMW in your driveway with no payments, right? I'm not saying that. But I am saying it gives the opportunity for change to occur in your heart. And people that give and it becomes a part of their life, it's amazing. Like, you talk to them and you see it in their eyes and you feel it when you're with them. And they are the most selfless, joyous people that give and they serve. And I would say you would miss out on that. And I would say too, that the finish line always keeps moving. And so when you say, oh, we'll do it when we pay off debt. Well, once you pay off debt, it's like, oh, that's kind of nice. We don't have payments. Well, we could save up have some savings. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Let's do that. Let's go on that vacation. The finish line continues to move. So if you don't create a habit of giving early on, it gets, I would say, almost more difficult the more money you make or the better financial situation you're in. And so I love John D. Rockefeller, his quote. He said, I would never have been able to tithe the first $1 million I ever made if I didn't tithe my first salary, which was $1.50 a week. Wow. And it's a perfect picture because money is a magnifying glass. It makes you more of what you already are. And if you're not a giver now and you still get in a better financial situation, it's very unlikely that that's going to just be an easy habit for you to cultivate. And so the earlier, the better. And I say give a little until you can give a lot. Obviously, the tithe for me is the baseline. I would love to see people with that 10% in their budget. But no matter where you are, if you're starting from clean slate and you're getting stressed, just give something. Make it a practice because it turns into a habit. And again, it sounds cliche, but it's so true. It's the most fun you will have with money.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It is absolutely fun. Generosity. Because after a while, you just kind of get bored with what you can buy.
Oh, yeah. Dad always says, I love his line. He's like, after you eat enough lobster, it tastes like soap. Like if you just eat, it's just like, you can just keep accumulating all this stuff, but it's like, it can be fun, but then it's just, it kind of gets whatever. You're exactly right.
One more financial question, then I want to talk a little bit more about what you're doing and how you do it and all that stuff. But this is a conversation that comes up in a lot of leadership circles. I know you give advice on it probably every day, if not every week. Is there such a thing as good debt?
No. And I say that it's an extreme stance. And I would say every time debt is mentioned in Scripture, it's in a negative fashion. Mm-hmm. It's a burden. It's a curse on your family. The borrower is slave to the lender. Now, the one type of debt that we won't yell at you for is a mortgage. Right. And there's some perimeters, around that. But everything from business loans, credit cards, car payments, all of it, because what it does is it limits your freedom. And we've bought into this lie, especially in America. I think Canadians probably have seeped into it as well. Yeah. That debt, it's there to, if you invest in this real estate deal and you take out that extra mortgage or go get a brand new car, right? It's just like this dream of what life is supposed to look like. But what people don't account for is risk. People don't account for 2008. When people have lost their jobs and the real estate bubble popped, right? I mean, people don't account for risk. And when you don't owe anyone anything, you have the freedom and the ability to do what God has called you to do with your income. And there's no one holding you back. There's no bank in the back of your mind. There's no family member who, when you're opening Christmas gifts, it's weird and awkward because you still owe them $4,000 and it hasn't been paid back yet. I mean, like it takes all that out. And there's such freedom. So besides the mortgage, I would say overall, there's no good debt. If you could put 100% down on a house, that's my number one encouragement to do that. But the mortgage is the one type of debt.
Most people couldn't. Most people can't.
Right.
And then again, buy the $2,000 car if you can't afford the $20,000 car, that's that kind of thing. What about student debt? That is a huge problem in Canada now, where somebody with the general BA in, say, psychology is graduating on average with $30,000, $40,000 in debt. And, it's not even really an employable job. Like, that's not a career path. Right? So, oh, gosh. What would your advice be? It's like, well, Rachel, I just can't even get an education unless I rack up 20, 30. My parents don't have it. Now what?
Yes. The student loan crisis is one of the most frustrating parts of what I talk about, because what's crazy is that we have become so stupid about education. Like the dichotomy of that, like people lose their minds and they do exactly what you just said. And they'll go to private schools and they'll just go anywhere they feel like it. And they'll go to a school that's $20,000, $30,000 a year and they're getting an undergrad degree in English, and they're going to go be a teacher making $32,000 a year. And it's like, what? No. So you have to think. So what I tell parents, and it's usually my message to parents, some 18-year-olds are smart enough to get it, but most of them aren't. They live in the moment. So as a parent, number one, you are not a bad parent if you cannot pay for college.
Right.
There's been this theme through our country that college is an entitlement, and it's not. College is a blessing. It is not an entitlement. And so you are not a bad parent, number one. Number two, you can still help your kids, even if it's not financially, because what I've learned is that if you can stay in state or go to a community college for the first year or two, that's going to be your best bet. Community college is $8,000 a year. You can get all your prereqs done there and then transfer to a big state school if you want. It's the number one mistake people make is they choose a school they can't afford. They step over a state line and they go, I'm talking about America here, not as much Canada,
I get it. Same thing in Canada.
Yeah, you step over a state line, you pay literally double for basically the same school. Now, I'm from Tennessee. I went to the University of Tennessee. So to say the same school, Tennessee is the same school as Alabama, hurts me a little bit, but it's true, right? I mean, it is the same college. You're getting the same education. And a private school, if you can't pay for it, it's out of the question. So college selection, number one. Then number two, scholarships and grants. It is free money. I talked to a girl and she said she grew up with a single mom and her mom made her apply for 2 scholarships a day starting Christmas break of her senior year till she graduated. And she was like, I was mad about it, Rachel. We fought about it all the time. But her entire college, she was in Texas, entire college is paid for and she has $3,000 in the bank because of all the scholarships and grants she got. So you take the time and apply for that. And then number 3, it's kind of a shock, but get a job. You can work.
We made our kids work. Yeah.
Yeah, you can work and go to school. Absolutely. And you even go work for the university and your room and board is taken care of. I mean, there are all ways that you can get a job and still pay for school. So all those things combined, selecting an affordable school, scholarships and grants, and working. And again, just like a lot of what we teach, it is hard. That's not fun. That's not, because you may not go to the school you want to go to, or you're 18-year-old. They have this dream of going to this one school and it may not happen. But the reason you're going to college is to get a higher education, hopefully to learn more and get a degree. And most employers don't care. They don't give a flip about where your degree is from. They just, and some of them don't even care you have a degree now. Now there's kind of a whole backlash against college, but that's another topic. But all that to say, Carey, we could have another podcast on this specifically. But my thing would be to be parents, please. And I'm saying this as someone that has talked to these students for years and years. Be a parent and step in. You're not a helicopter parent. You're not being unhealthy. You're being wise by guiding your 18-year-old of how to do things wisely, because majority of people you talk to who are 30 years old with student loan debt still, Sally Mae still hanging out, most of them would say, I so wish my parents had stopped me. I wish someone had just said, you don't have to do that. You can make other choices and have no student loan debt. And so I really think I would go as far as to say, I don't think we have a student loan issue. I think we have a parenting issue. And parents are just wiping their hands and saying, okay, well, you're an 18-year-old. And so wherever you feel called to, no, they're stupid at 18 sometimes. Like you have to guide them. And so, it's a big rant I have because I see the pain. And that's why I get so passionate about it. And what I also see is people can't go do what they're called to do because they can't go into ministry because of their dang student loan debt. They feel called to the mission field, but they can't go. They have to stay on their corporate job because they have $60,000 of debt still to pay off from student loans. And so,
and good luck. And here comes the snowball because now you have a mortgage and now you've got a car payment. And
I mean, it's so frustrating. And so, you make smart choices, do some hard work, and it's not always fun, but man, when you get out, you have the freedom, again, that freedom to decide and not be stuck in that job that you hate, which some people are. I know there's a lot of people in ministry listening, so I don't mean that you hate your job.
No, but I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. And this is from a history major and a former lawyer and a guy with a theology degree. I spent a lot of time in school. History degree is really interesting, absolutely useless, but really interesting. Right. And nobody's going to hire you with a history degree. I can tell you that if that leads somewhere. It was pre-law for me. Okay. You get so much done, Rachel. You're in the thick of it too. You've got 2 little kids. You're married. You work. You speak all over the world. I would love to know, and you write books, best-selling books. So I would love to know, what are some rhythms, habits, and disciplines that are really helping you in this season?
Well, this season, these may be different if you talk to me in another 4 years, because I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old at home. So, my number one habit, which I hold very tightly if I can, is alone time in the morning. So I get up early enough to have my coffee. On good days, I open up scripture. On bad days, I turn on bad cable TV and watch the news. So but whatever it is, I have just some quiet and my coffee, and it's kind of just my sane time before the girls wake up. So that's a big thing that I've put in place that I'm so thankful for. It's just some quiet time. So that I would say my husband Winston and I, we are phenomenal at coordinating schedules. We've perfected this. Like we over communicate about everything from every weeknight. What are we doing? If we're home, what meals are we cooking? I mean, we schedule as much as we can because what that does is that gives us the ability to be so present when we are together or with the girls. And so we're on the same page. There's not miscommunication. We're not perfect at it, but I would say 9 out of 10 times we've gotten this down with traveling and all of that. So our schedules, we have lined them up in a sense that we know exactly what's going on with each other. And then I would say I have help. I mean, I don't know how many females you have listening, but I think sometimes as a woman, you watch other women do these great things and you're like, oh, wow, I couldn't do all of that because I have all these kids and I feel like I have to cook dinner and clean the house. And, it's just, you have so many responsibilities. And so I have learned Christine Kane. I don't know if you are familiar. She's one of my favorite people on the planet. Yep. And so she told me early on, because I got to talk to her early on when I was doing all of this just for some advice. And I remember she said, outsource what you can, because you can't always outsource hugs from your kids. You can't, there's certain things you cannot outsource, but if you can and you get to a place where you're able to do it. And that's honestly been one of the biggest blessings for me. And so now I've recently, I used to not be ashamed by it, but I wouldn't really tell people. But now I do, because I feel like it gives people freedom, because I'm like, I don't clean my house as much anymore. I have someone come and deep clean twice a month. And what that means is on a Saturday when I'm home, I'm not scrubbing baseboards. I'm playing with my girls, and we're going to the park, and we're going to the movies, and we're going out to lunch to Chick-fil-A, and like eating the Christian chicken. And we're doing all the things. And so I have learned to not be ashamed to say that I do outsource things that I'm able to, in order for me to be present with my family when I'm home.
I think that's really good advice. Christine has given that advice on this podcast. Shannon Miles, I don't know whether you know Brian and Shannon, she said the same thing. Like, you've got to get help. Yes. And just for the record, for pastors, back when I was making $19,000 a year and my wife was working 1 day a week, now she was a pharmacist, you can make good money in a single day.
Sure.
We actually had help. We had help around the house. It was something we started when we had no money, and we still have help today. Not in every area. There's some stuff I love to do, but I think that's really good, because otherwise you get into this cycle where there's never a break.
Right. And you'll wear yourself out. Absolutely. Yep. And we give up things in our budget. Let me just say that we don't have this endless supply of cash so we can go do whatever we want. I mean, we will give up things in order to get things done. Does that make sense? Like, well, there's a give and take. And so, but we're willing to do that. Like, we're willing to go out to eat less in order to get other things done. That way we can, be with the girls. So
we did the same thing, like eat less, crappy TV, a used TV rather than a new TV, whatever it happened to be. I mean, you make trade-offs, and if that's not worth it to you, get the nice, 70-inch, 4K TV, but enjoy the baseboard scrubbing, right?
Yeah, that's
whatever.
Right. That's right.
Rachel, this has been so good. You've got a kind of a new-ish TV show I want you to tell people about. And tell us what you're up to and where people can find you online.
Yes. Well, we started the Rachel Cruze show. I had a video blog for years that I was doing and creating content that way. And so we kind of formalized it and tested it and all of this stuff about a year ago. And we got great viewership. So we're like, okay, this will work. So we started this formal 30-minute show. It's on YouTube and Facebook right now. And it is so fun. We talk about everything from money, which is the primary thread through the whole episode, but it's things about getting a couple out of debt, to budgeting, to grocery store hacks, to how to make your kids' Halloween costume on a budget. I mean, like it's everything under the sun, and it's been so much fun. We've really had a great time doing it. And our whole premise is about taking control of your money and creating a life that you love. And so hopefully we'll give you content to help assist with that. And then, other things. I mean, we're traveling, live events. So everything's on rachelcruze.com. And it's early stages of possibly a new book. So we'll talk about that later. So who knows? We'll see how that comes to fruition soon. But those are long processes too. We're not people that just write a book in 90 days. It's out there. It takes some time around here to get things in place and all of that, which I'm thankful for. But so we'll see.
Good. You're a fun follow on social too. I love your Insta stories, so people can find you there.
Thank you.
It's pretty real. I love it. Is that your favorite? What's your favorite social right now? Mine is Insta stories for sure.
Yeah, I would say that Instagram and Insta stories. I've gotten off Facebook. I honestly haven't had. I have my personal account, so my professional account. But I don't have a personal Facebook page because I kind of was just like, oh, I'm so tired of it. I enjoy Instagram more. So just like you, the stories are fun because, you kind of see the behind the scenes of stuff, which I like. Yeah,
you do. You do a good job of that. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for the advice, and really appreciate everything you do to help people.
Absolutely. Thanks, Carey. Thanks for having me on.
Well, that was a delight and filled with like really practical, down-to-earth tips from Rachel. So if you want to know a little bit more, make sure you listen to all the messages in the Crazy Like Us series. It's a fantastic series on how to get your finances reordered. And don't forget about the financial learning experience. If you're listening to this in real time, we have one happening November 4th, another one November 11th. In our locations, you can find out more at connexuschurch.com. Click on events and scroll down. You'll see it right there. And if you're listening to this months or way later, don't worry. We do the financial learning experience several times a year, and we want to partner with you. And of course, if you're at our locations on Sunday morning, which we hope you are, drop by the Next Steps kiosk at any time, and we can help you with this kind of stuff. So thanks so much for listening, guys. We will see you next Sunday, and really hope this helped.